So that's more like it.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to another post-game edition. Again, this one should be a fun one. We are going to celebrate a bit today of Locked On Illini. My name is Sunny Verma. You can find me at the Sunny B on all your favorite social medias. Come support the channel on all your social medias. Just do a search for Locked On Illini. That's me. So send me a message. Say something nice. Say something not so nice. Just know it's going to be me responding. If you're watching this video, I know the vibes are high. I know things got a little exciting at the end of the game because, they weren't exciting at any point earlier than that. So we're going to share the positive vibes. Make sure you hit that like button to celebrate this victory. And what a victory it was. A 94-69 victory for the Illini. And quite honestly, you can tell Brad Underwood really did want to make this, I believe it would have been the third 30-plus point victory in the Big Ten Conference. Folks, my everydayers in here know. I say it all the time. This season with this team is going to be very up and down. It's almost like a roller coaster ride. This team is so incredibly talented that we can go into one of the toughest places to play in college basketball. Okay, I mean, I know Indiana's not very good this year. Clearly, it's not a secret that Mike Woodson should be freshening up his resume at some point. Maybe even this season. Which, by the way, is not something we want as Illini fans. I was very upset when Michigan finally decided to pull the trigger on Juwan Howard. And now they have Dusty May, who has really turned around that team, and they look really, really impressive. We don't want the Hoosiers to make a move when it comes to the head coaching position. I don't think they're going to have a choice. There's social media videos going around of a fire Mike Woodson chant at halftime. A lot of the student body from the text messages I was getting from the people I know there left at halftime. And but you know what? Not my problem. I'm here to talk Illini sports. And what a return it was for Kasparas Jakucionis. As you guys usually know, first segment, I'm going to talk about the game itself. Second segment, I'm going to be talking about the individual players. So let me know what you like. Who was your favorite? Who's your MVP of the game? And also a question I have for you guys. We were discussing this in the Discord, which, by the way, if you're not a member of, we had a bunch of new members join during the game today, which I appreciate all of you. The link should be in the chat or in the description. Join us. We're talking about Illini sports all day, every day, including while the game is going on. Do you think Tomislav is going to get any more punishment beyond what happened with that technical? I don't think so. But it's a question, worth discussing. Let's just put it that way. You know what? Okay, speaking of worth discussing, let's talk about this Illini game. Kasparas, I guess it's announced maybe 15, 20 minutes before tip-off that KJ is going to return. We all had a hint because during shoot-around, there was a noticeable lack of sleeve, and he was shooting around like he was going to play. He was not shooting around with the team against USC. He was actually hanging out with Ty Rodgers at the time, so you kind of got the hint that he wasn't going to play against USC, but between his quotes, which I discussed earlier on Tuesday's episode, and just seeing him in the pregame, it really did look like he was going to play. And sure enough, just about 10-15 minutes before, an Illini staff member confirmed that he was going to play. And play he did. I believe he had 19 points and 4 rebounds and 3 assists in the first half. He scored 8 of our first 10 points. This is a kid where, again, it's that first half is why you're reminded that this kid could be a top 5, if not a top 3 pick in the NBA draft. And he could be higher if this draft didn't have generational talents like Cooper Flagg in it. You see, and I'm going to talk about this. I use these post games as let's talk about positive things and negative things. The negative one, I think, is pretty clear. Every time Kasparas sits down, all of a sudden the offense stops moving the ball around. But, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Right now, we're just here to, discuss what we saw, what we liked, what we didn't like. I saw a team that didn't show up for the second game in a row. The only difference is on Saturday, it was Illinois that didn't show up. And today, it seemed like Illinois broke the will of the Hoosiers and the Hoosiers fans very, very early. Now, someone had responded to me on Twitter when I had made that tweet saying essentially that. And they're like, no, Indiana's much worse with their performance today. I don't necessarily think that's true. I just think that even when Illinois doesn't show up, they're almost as good as USC is. And that's why the score was so much closer on Saturday. If a team doesn't show up against the Illini, watch out. We might drop 105 on you. For most of the game, we were planning, or the trajectory was to score over 100 points. We landed at a very disappointing 94 points. And that includes, a 4 or 5 minute stretch in the second half where I believe Indiana went on a 16-4 run. What's there to tell you? Like, if every now and then, more often than not, I get my pregame analysis wrong, and I get called out on it, and I enjoy that. But today, I think I was pretty spot on. The only player who I talked about how Umar Ballo might have a good game, but that doesn't mean the Hoosiers are going to win. He had 16 points today, 15 rebounds from 7-11 shooting. The difference is nobody else did anything else. And nobody else on Indiana. I mean, Luke Goody had 13. Melvin Rice had 12. Galloway had 10. Nobody really stepped up. And that's why Illinois was able to contain this victory. Illinois, almost for the second time in 3 games, had 3 players in 20-plus points. Kylan had 22. Kasparas had 21. Tomislav just missed with 17 points. And speaking of the pregame, I highlighted, one of the players I highlighted was Tomislav Ivisic. He's a guy who, let's be honest, he struggled since Big Ten season has started. And today, against his biggest challenger yet, Umar Ballo, Ivisic went for 17-11 from 6 of 12 shooting and 3 of 6 from three-point land. That's what we needed. If we have Tommy hitting shots down low, we know this team is going to be hitting shots from three-point land for the most part, right? I always say this, even if an Illinois game is completed and you don't know the final score and you can only find out one stat, always just look at three-point shooting. Today it was 11 for 32, which really for Illinois standards is not that high. They won by 25, and this should have been more than 25. This was a game that was teetering on 30, and if that little scuffle didn't happen at the end of the game where, I guess Ivisic didn't like the way Luke Goody had boxed him out, and, a little drama ensued. Rice came in, and, obviously Ballo came in and shoved Ivisic, and Tommy fell down. Now, we talked about it, we love seeing that fire from Tommy, right? That's what we want to see. We want to see him be aggressive, be mean. And, we caught a glimpse of that. Now, I did joke that I'd rather Tomislav be that mean and that angry against guys his own size. But, maybe that's coming. Right now, I can't sit here and complain. 17, 11, and 4 from Tomislav. He essentially outplayed Ballo, which, by the way, how much of a disaster is this Hoosier program? There's going to be countless, if there's not already, tapes on X or wherever you find social media of Hoosiers players just standing around doing nothing. Illinois just hustled to every 50-50 ball. Again, this was the opposite of what happened in that USC game. Illinois grabbed, 49 rebounds as a team today. 49 rebounds as a team. And I talked about, when Illinois rebounds, they'll be fine. Because that tells you that's a hustle, right? Shots aren't always going to go in. But if you're hustling, this team is too talented that itself will keep them in the games. But when the shot is falling, like it was today, you're going to beat teams like the Indiana Hoosiers by 25 points. And again, plus, if it was up to Brad, let's be honest, he wanted to win this game by 30 points because of the net rankings. And hey, when you're putting these brackets together, that committee, that would be a stat that's going to stick out. Hey, Illinois beat three Big Ten teams by 30 plus points. That's going to look impressive. And so, I got some texts, a good friend of the show, Sam Ober, texted like, hey, let's take KJ out. And I totally agree. There's no reason for KJ to come in with 5 minutes left in that game. But my only thinking was Kylan had been playing for a while at that point. He had 4 or 5 minutes of being the lead guard because Kasparas had gotten his 4th foul. And it was a little too early to bring in AJ Red to play the point because there's still 5 minutes left. And then 5 minutes, the Hoosiers, if they catch fire, they can easily bring this lead down to, again, the game looked like it was in hand, but it could be under 20. But listen to what I'm talking about as an Illinois fan right now. Imagine being on the other side of this butt kicking. We're talking about how much Illinois should be beating Indiana. Like, should we win by 30 or not? That's honestly what I feel like the toughest decision for Brad Underwood was at the end of that game. And again, the only reason we didn't, I think we cleared the bench, is after that scuffle happened. And obviously you don't want to risk anything further happening, especially, you noticed it. After the game, they didn't do the post-game handshake. Mike Woodson and Brad Underwood, just kind of came up to each other. I think they whispered something to each other, and, they decided to just wave goodbye. Probably the right call. The Hoosiers weren't happy. Illini, they weren't happy. But sometimes you just want to go home and take that win. All right, let's talk about the individual players right after this. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the year, WayFair has everything you need, all within your budget. As most of you know, I just completed a cross-country move, and I'm looking for furniture, and their huge selection makes it easy to find pieces that fit my style and my budget. My favorite part, the free and hassle-free delivery. Even for the larger items, WayFair's site was so easy to navigate, and I found everything I needed in no time. There's something for every style and every home, no matter your space or your budget. WayFair makes it easy to tackle your New Year's home goals with endless inspiration for every space. Give your home the refresh it needs with WayFair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WayFair.com. WayFair. Every style, every home. Kasparas Jakucionis, again, you see how good of a basketball player this is. Now, there's a lot of publicity, of course, and buzz about Braden Smith over the way he's played over the last 2 weeks or so. But again, my everydayers in here know Purdue played a very light schedule, a lineup of opponents that just didn't match up very well against Purdue. And I talked about how the Boilermakers would have a stretch of a couple victories in a row now. And Braden Smith, sure, he's playing his butt off, but I still think that Kasparas is all Big Ten first team. I don't know if they're going to put 2 point guards on it. That's fine. But, oh, by the way, Harper's also a guard. So I'm very curious to see how they figure and sort that out. But that's a problem for a different time. One problem I do have is, as good as this offense looks when Kasparas is playing, we look kind of lifeless out there when he's not. And that continued today when he, it's just, I don't know what they're not practicing, but certainly right now, at least over the last couple of games, the team struggles a little bit more when Kasparas is sitting on the bench. And while hopefully, his forearm is healed at this point, because, why else would he play the amount of minutes that he played today? He played 27 minutes today. He looked fine. He looked healthy. I guarantee you Indiana fans thought he looked healthy. He just came out and dominated 8 of the first 10 points for the Illini. Again, I mentioned this before, 19 in that first half. He was just setting guys up. He opens the space up for Avicic, who himself had a wonderful first half. I forgot to note how many he had, but I think he had like 13 or 14 points himself in that first half. It was the best half that Avicic has had in a very long time. And, I've talked about this, is if Avicic plays anywhere near what he played like at the beginning of the year, this is a Final Four team. If he's just an average player like he's looked like for the last month or so, well, then we're probably teetering more around the Sweet 16, possibly Elite 8 if we get hot type of team. But, Avicic, he's 21 years old. Like for me, again, my frustrations come with just the lack of physicality. And I think you did see a little bit of today. Again, I'd like to see him barking the way he did today, even though it was against the beloved Luke Goody. Although I guess I don't know how beloved he is after that blatant foul he had on Kasparas, boxing him out. Maybe Luke just needs to work on boxing out. Speaking of, you did see Brad Underwood. This was kind of mean. Isolate Goody a couple times, and it seems like they'd play that matchup, find out who Goody was guarding, and switch it up so that whoever Goody was guarding would have the ball. And that's what just Illinois. That's what we do, right? How many open shots did we leave Galloway? Plenty. Why? Because he wasn't making them. Illinois maths the math. Okay, they know what the numbers are. And you don't need the numbers to know that Luke struggles on the defensive end. We have a couple years of watching him in a blue and orange jersey to confirm that. We don't need a spreadsheet. And so Illinois basically just had a game plan that, they could have told you they've seen in practice the last couple of years. It had happened against us so often in the past, where a lot of times in the post-game shows, not of this one, but of Illini cast, people would be complaining about Luke Goody, like this guy can't play defense, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we know that. And it's just nice to be on the good side of that. And again, this is not a Luke Goody slander show. I appreciate Luke for what he did. I don't blame him for leaving. Speaking of reminders, I got in trouble after that USC game for some people saying I was too negative, and I was letting people in the chat voice things that were too negative. Remember, these shows are all about 24 hours to vent, to celebrate, to say whatever you want. Get off your hot takes. I may say things now that I may not necessarily believe tomorrow, but I will say, I know I'm going to believe this. Illinois is the best team in the Big Ten. Now, whether we're going to finish on top, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to win the Big Ten Conference, but too often you just see games like this where we're just blowing out opponents. I think this was the largest defeat that Indiana has had from an opponent in Assembly Hall. I'm going to have to fact check that later, but we just did that against Oregon, right? That was 4 games ago? When this Illinois team is on, they're very, very good. And sure, the last 2 games have been, well, I guess the last 1 game, Penn State, we still dominated. USC, sure, the team looked lifeless. And I think that's kind of our biggest enemy right now, is when the team does look lifeless. What happens then? But, we're also without our best player. And a lot of teams are going to struggle when they don't have their best player. And, Illinois is no different. But granted, we got him back now, and it looks like hopefully it's not going to be something, too serious. All right, let's get to your comments. I see the chat blowing up. Let's get to that right after this. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. And I had a few subscriptions that I didn't realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right. Usually my favorite part of this show, the post-game shows, is going to the chat. Of course, it wasn't in that USC game, but I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say. By the way, 145 people watching, and we got 41 likes. The chat knows that math doesn't work for me. So, if you don't mind, I've already released 5 shows this week, and we just basically started. One of my New Year's resolutions, at least for January, is to release a show every single day. I do this for absolutely free. Please, all I ask for in return is for you guys to hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe. I think we gained like 40 new subscribers overnight. I appreciate all of you, especially those of you who are new to the club. So let's see what you guys say. Tyler says, great game. Absolutely. Awesome game to watch and chat with the Discord community. Absolutely. We had a fun time today. Justin says that first half. I wanted to say, was that our best half of the season? But we've had so many. I can't even say that anymore. Like, that would be 99% of the teams in the country's best half in the entire season. And the season isn't even over yet. But when it comes to our rankings, like, I don't even know if it's top 3. That's just how good we looked. Ross Mack says, Illinois put fighting back in Illini. Now let's bring back the Chief. Yeah, I mean, that's a conversation for another day. This guy here says, Tommy got tough. We needed him to wake up. He sure did. Yeah, I've been, that's the one thing that's missing right now. We need a physical Tommy. Morez Johnson, who, by the way, low-key had another good game today. 5 points, 10 rebounds in 18 minutes. 10 rebounds in 18 minutes. I mean, this guy, I say it all the time. He was put on this earth to grab rebounds. Only 1 for 3 from the field, and that's 2 games in a row. He struggled a little bit on offense, but I have zero expectation for his offense. For me, it's just as long as he plays defensively like he does. No center likes to play against Morez Johnson because Morez is going to body you, and he's going to put his hands up every single time. And no matter how good position you have on him, he's going to make your shot difficult. And, that's kind of what I want Tommy to do on the defensive side. Now, I know Tom Slav, he offers something else on when playing defense, but, another great game by Morez. Jason says, let's go. Can't wait to see the highlights. John, this is what I should have named the show. Where's the nearest Pizza Hut? Candy Stripe's not the best look on our boy Goody. Yeah. I really wish we can inject some truth serum on him after this game. Philip says, curb stomp to Indiana. I love it. Matt agrees with me on the Pizza Hut. Philip says, should Ballo get a suspension? I don't think so. A shove is a shove, and he obviously overreacted, but he got thrown out of the game. There's only 2.5 minutes left, but let's not over-dramatize it. A lot of those Hoosiers were frustrated at that point. I mean, they were down, I think, 29 points when that incident occurred. And, and let's be honest, Tommy kind of instigated it, right? He didn't like the box out that Luke Goody did. And so, if anything, if roles were reversed and if it was Tommy in Umar's position, I'd probably be happy that Tommy did that and stood up for our teammate. Yeah, it's dumb, ultimately. And, I wouldn't suspend him. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. St. Dominic's Rosary says, let me be the first to apologize. Sorry, but I was in my feelings after the USC loss. That's more like it. When I see Illinois basketball, that's what I want to see every time. Appreciate you, Rosary. Steve says, great win for the Illini. William says, streaky team, blowout Oregon, struggle against Washington, blowout Penn State, lose to USC, blowout IU, at least in the first half. Second half start was flat. Now Michigan State, I have no idea. Well, hopefully, we get a glimpse of that in the first half today. This team is going to be like that, just because of their youth, and we're going to have games where a lot of it's going to be reliant on KJ. And I talked about this a couple weeks ago. My everydayers in here know that KJ sophomore slump is coming. Freshman slump is coming. That freshman wall. No freshman just plays out of their minds like he has for an entire season. Unless we count his first 3 games as his slump, where he only shot 4, 5, and 4 shots. But my worry is that when KJ takes a step back, because I think it's inevitable, what happens then? What happens when we can't just count on him to bail us out on the offensive end? If he's struggling a little bit, it's different because Kasparas is equally as good of a playmaker as he is a shooter. So hopefully it won't be too far of a step back. But I really am hoping that someone else can step up. Tyler says, good win today. Hopefully we can keep this up against Michigan State. Not sure if this style of play is sustainable, though. I think it is. This is the team Brad Underwood built. This is exactly the team Brad Underwood built. And it just so happens that 2 years in a row, Brad Underwood, this might be a topic for a segment this week. 2 years in a row now, Brad Underwood has built a certain type of offense, and he's had the perfect player in place to run that offense. Last year with Booty Ball, it was Marcus Damask. You could not ask for a player to run that style of offense better and play that role better than the way Marcus did last year. This year, it's Kasparas. Kasparas is, again, he's solid defensively, but just the way he's able to find all these shooters that Illinois has. And, again, we scored 94 points again today with the stretch of 4 or 5 minutes in the game where we just didn't score. You'd think Indiana would be used to getting their butts kicked by now. You know what? I'm not getting used to it. I'm going to enjoy every bit of it. Again, please extend Mike Woodson. I think we should make that hashtag. Connie says they're back. Connie might be Harvey. They're back. Jump back on the bandwagon, all the doubters, and on to beat Sparty Sunday. Harvey's here smiling again. That's right, Harvey. I remembered you. Great game, says Steve. John, you are correct. He says they were undefeated at home, right? Yeah. The Hoosiers had not lost at home this year. And now they have to the tune of 25 points against the Illini. Don points out Indiana beat USC. Guys, I know this is going to be frustrating, and you're going to be like, no, you can't do that. And other fan bases have already told me this. But all I can say is just throw that USC game out the window. I'm telling you, on the second watch, I did not recognize that team. It was lifeless. And it's not like Illinois had a bad game. If Illinois had a bad game, I would have pointed that out. That wasn't Illinois having a bad game. Illinois. And so, in my mind, again, what I'm worried about is when there's 2 or 3 games left. And I don't know if you guys have seen the Illinois schedule the last week of the season. It's pretty intimidating that we're going to regret losing that one to USC then. But for now, honestly, I've forgotten about that loss. I've moved on. Philip says Goody wanted this game. He could have gotten his second flagrant one on the Visic hit. Rain says Indiana couldn't make a shot all night. I mentioned that in the Discord. There were opportunities for the Hoosiers to get back into this game. There absolutely were opportunities. But thankfully, Mike Woodson doesn't believe in the modern basketball game in the sense where you need to recruit shooters. And, they just couldn't. What, 1 for 14 at one point. What did they finish? 4 for 18 at the end of the game. So they were able to make a few at the end when the game was pretty much out of hand. But 1 or 2 of those shots go in, Assembly Hall can get loud. And who knows what could have happened. I will get to more of your thoughts right after this. All right. John says, also a rookie here on Discord had my night open up. Discord was absolutely amazing. I recommend anyone listening, watching to check it out. John, appreciate you. Thank you so much. And again, the link should be in the description. If it's not, let someone know. Maybe one of the guys in the Discord can let them know in the chat, and I'll update it after the show is over. Taylor says, young team just needs time to gel. Might not gel, get the Big Ten regular season title, but dang, going to be a dangerous team come March. Taylor, that's exactly how I described the season since the preseason. I thought we'd struggle a little bit early in the year. I thought we'd kick it into gear in January. The loss, I hate having 2 losses to 2 teams that we're clearly better than. Northwestern is struggling this year. USC is just not a good team. But, you just play the cards that you're dealt. And all that Illinois has done at this point is built themselves a shorter leash. We can't have duds at this point anymore, being 2 games down on Michigan and Michigan State already. But that's what makes that Michigan State game on Sunday all that more important. The eye test tells me that Illinois is better than Michigan State. But you know what? We're 2 games behind on them. And if all of a sudden they beat us on Sunday, we're 3 games behind them, you can basically kiss your Big Ten Conference hopes goodbye. Does that matter? To some of you, it might matter. To me, it does matter. It's not the ultimate goal, but there's something nice about winning the Big Ten title. I could just feel like that's the ultimate accomplishment for a team throughout the season. The NCAA tournament, sometimes it's just about what team gets hot. But I do genuinely believe that the regular season, when it comes to the Big Ten, that title means a lot because that shows and proves who the best team in the conference is consistently all year long. Harvey says, Illini make threes, Hoosiers don't. Charles also agrees that, not consistent enough to win the Big Ten. Goody really slammed into him. No reason not. Oh, so you guys are talking about Ivisic, whether he should get any punishment. And you guys are right. Now that I'm reflecting on that, both teams, I think, clear slate after this. William says, Colin was a rock after KJ had to sit in the second half. He steadied the ship when it was needed. Yeah, and that's kind of what we needed against USC. That's what I was calling him out for, him and Trey White. Trey White, by the way, not a great game. In that second half, he was fine in the first half, but just some brain-dead blunders in that second half. But anyways, the point is, I wanted the veterans to step up. And maybe there's no one's life who gets easier when Kasparas plays than Kylan. Because Kylan can then just focus on 3-4 things and do them really, really well. If Kylan is given the responsibility to be the main guard who's got to make the offense run, and by the way, also be our best defensive player, that's just a lot on his plate. And, Kylan's a very, very good basketball player, but I don't think he's, all American or all Big Ten, maybe like Kasparas is. So when Kasparas is playing, Kylan can focus on what he's doing, and this team becomes all the more dangerous. John says, I'm going to leave the chat now because this is my commute podcast. Enjoy the win, everyone. Absolutely celebrate tonight. Luke was taking cheap shots all game. That last one looked very intentional. I know they were frustrated, but it was disappointing to see him swinging elbows and giving hard fouls. You know what? You're right. A lot of people are saying that. I missed some of it until I saw them on the replays. But on the other hand, Luke Goody's the only player I felt on Indiana who cared. Even after that scuffle, when Umar Ballo shoved Ivisic, it was Luke Goody going up to him like, hey, what are you doing? Mike Woodson just kind of standing behind Luke. Luke is the de facto coach. And of course, I don't like him taking cheap shots at my players. And Burke White from the Often Daunted podcast, Indiana Hoosier fan, said this, that Indiana fans wish they had more Luke Goodies on their team. And one comment that really stood out to me that I'm going to devote a future show to is like the ultimate flattery when Burke said that. Just know that Indiana fans are very envious. Seeing what Luke Goody has brought to Bloomington, they're very envious of the culture of the program that Brad Underwood has built in Champaign because they're craving it. And to see an outsider come in and play college basketball a certain way, they're envious that they don't have a coach who can install in that type of culture over there in Hoosierland. Kevin says, all I heard before the season started was how Indiana had the best roster in the Big Ten. Kevin, you and I both. And you know what? I even feel salty because I think I had them finishing in the top 3 in the Big Ten. But as silly as it sounds, is every time I would say that, I'd be like, because they have a lot of talent. But their coaching staff is awful, and I don't have any faith in them. I just wish I just stuck with what I initially thought. That as long as Mike Woodson is in charge of that team, they're not going to go anywhere. And they're going to out-talent a lot of teams in the Big Ten Conference because there are a lot of good college basketball players on that team. But anytime they go up against a team with equal to above better talent, they're going to lose. It's an automatic loss. And in games like today at home, it's a blowout loss. Jason says, let's go big rebound game. Love to see it. If we rebound the ball, we win. William says, let's all not forget to give the thumbs up to Sunny. Absolutely. Please hit that like button. 68 people and 169 people watching. That math is not mathing. Come on, help me out, folks. Charles says, Ivisic MVP with the bounce back game. It's hard not to give it to Kasparas after that first half because I feel like once Kasparas scored 8 of those first 10, everyone on Illinois just relaxed. Like, hey, KJ's back. We're good. We're set. But I'll give an honorable mention to Ivisic because, again, this is the game we needed from him. And if he gives us 17, 11, and 4, if he gives us 13 and 10 throughout the rest of the Big Ten schedule, we'll be fine. Serena says, Morez continues to struggle to set good screens. Yeah, and he gets a little, the refs pick on him a little bit too much when it comes to fouls. Philip says, rebounds, Illinois 52, Indiana 38. Offensive, Illinois 16, Indiana 8. Don says, with Coach Gross, 65-point average a game. William says, was this style of play not good for Trey? He disappeared again. Hope that's just a blip, not a trend. I don't think he disappeared. He missed a couple shots here and there. The thing is, Brad Underwood was very vocal about this. He talked about this in the postgame press conference, I think 2 games ago. He doesn't run plays for Trey White. Trey White gets his plays from just attacking the rim or in transition. And today, I just think the opportunity wasn't there for him. 2 for 9, 5 points, 6 rebounds for Trey in 23 minutes. But mainly for me, it's like just early in that second half, he almost single-handedly brought the momentum back over to Indiana. But you know what? Everyone's allowed to have a bad few minutes every now and then. Hitless, we beat Wisconsin, Missouri, Indiana, Iowa, Purdue, Northwestern next. Yeah, absolutely. We got to get revenge on Northwestern. I believe that game's next week, right? Thanks, Rosary. Some guy says, really need this game to get over the USC loss. You and I both. Rosary says, Luke Goody is a punk and a traitor. Glad he got his butt handed to stay in Indiana. Luke will never be welcome back at Illinois. I don't know if that's the case, but maybe. Who knows? Corey says, Woodson is done there. One of the best NIL in the country. Put that product out there is laughable. Philip says, most points Indiana has allowed in regulation at Assembly Hall in history. Okay, so I wasn't making that stat up. Thank you, Philip. Philip is amazing, by the way, when it comes to stats and analytics and numbers and like that. I'm always appreciative when Philip is watching because he can always drop gems like that. So we've done that against Oregon. No opponent had come into Oregon Stadium and scored as many points as the Illini did in that matchup. And now we just did that against Indiana. And by the way, Indiana has played basketball for a few years. That's actually a really, really impressive stat when you think about it. Paul says, how many wins will in the Big Ten this year? Are you asking how many wins will win the Big Ten this year? I think you have to get to at least 15. I think 15 is the magic number. Whether the Illini can get to that, if they play like this, absolutely they can. But again, it's just the duds that show up out of nowhere. Charles confirms, yeah, that's the second time in 4 games we've done that to a Big Ten foe. And trust me, Brad wanted to win this game by more than 30 points. I know that. There's no other reason to keep that lineup in at the end of the game. He wanted that 30-plus point victory. Brad knows what he's doing, guys. He knows he's playing to that net ranking. He knows how to play a game to finish it so that it's noticed in March. And these numbers matter in March. Rosary says, Indiana's a bunch of sore losers that got their butts handed to them. Chumps that couldn't win the basketball game, so now they want to fight. Indiana's a joke of a basketball program full of punks. This is what the postgame's for. Get your hot takes off. I love it. Rosary also says, hey, Sonny, it's hard to play when you are absolutely beating the soul and will out of a team. Indiana got absolutely destroyed. Go Illini. Love the toughness from Ivisic. We need that. KJ is my player of the game because his court game is just outstanding. Boswell did a good job when KJ went out with fouls. Overall, impressive win. Very impressive win. Phillips says, largest home defeat for Indiana in 15 years. Previously, it was 23 points. All right. We know Rosary does not like Luke Goody. Philip also says, Michigan and Michigan State have been shooting way above their normal. Everything finds its level. They will drop games nobody sees coming. Which, and I guess I'll kind of start to wrap it up saying that, right? After the USC game, I said, hey, did Illinois ruin their chances of winning the Big Ten Conference? I got a lot of messages after that game, enough so that I felt compelled to come back on literally 24 hours later and be like, hey, look, the post games are for venting, for ranting. That's what that's for. But when you look at the big picture, Michigan is a very good basketball team. They're not an elite team like Purdue was last year. And I fully believe that Michigan and Michigan State, they're going to have their own stinkers at some point too. The Big Ten is a very even playing field this year. And every single game is going to be a dogfight. And so that's why I said 15 wins, I think, could win the Big Ten Conference this year. Whether we're at this point just hoping that Illinois limits they're duds of games, and we're basically rooting against the Wolverines and Michigan State, and of course Purdue, the rest of the season. Justin brings up a good point, which was mentioned in the Discord as well. This is going to be a little disconcerting. Michigan State game is at 11 a.m. I think we'll be fine this time. That will be tricky, but we'll see. Love the tough. Oh, I think I read that one. Jason says KJ is a stud and clearly runs his offense. I called it in the Discord that KJ being bit back, Big T would step up. Morez is a monster. Michael says I hate Peacock. Justin doesn't believe me. KJ, Wall, I hear you, but I'll believe it when I see it. I'm just basing that off of what? Trying to calculate my age, like 30 plus years of watching college basketball. It's hard for freshmen, guys who are 18 years old, to consistently produce at the level that KJ's averaging. I'm not saying he's going to stink it up, but I'm saying I do think that at some point this season, there's going to be a 3-game stretch where KJ's just not playing at the level that he is right now, which is not a diss by any sort of way. KJ's playing at an unreal level, right? Potential All-American level. Playing himself into a top 3 pick, possibly. I'm just saying that when he steps back a notch, I just hope that his teammates are there to take up the slack, at least for a couple of games, because I don't think it's going to last very, very long. All right. I'm at 42 minutes, so I got to wrap things up here at Locked On Illini. They don't like me going too much longer than this. Thank you all so much. Please, 84 likes. Okay, we're getting it up there. Let's get to 100. 160 people watching. Find me on all the social medias. The Sunny V if you want my personal. Heck, if you want to email me at thesunnyv@icloud.com. But Locked On Illini, all your socials. Say hello. Join the Discord. Today we celebrate, and then I'll be back here again tomorrow, because I'm back here every single day, because that's the promise I make to you guys, producing Illini content for you. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.